Hi Sonia, it's Jacquelyn here. I'm a Canadian registered midwife. I'm currently back in Canada for the summer. A few notes before we get started. I have not actually practiced midwifery in the last 4 years, though I am doing my master's in global maternal health through City University of London, and so I'm still got a foot in it, but I haven't actually been actively practicing. So I know since COVID, there's been some shifts in the way that certainly midwives work in Canada. There's also been some shifts, as far as I understand, from my colleagues around the world in terms of what we've been seeing. But in answer to your questions today, I'll just go through my experiences prior to and then during COVID as a registered midwife here in Canada. And then hopefully add in a sprinkling of some other details as they come up. So in terms of how a midwife can impact a mother's emotional well-being during the postpartum period, I think there are some really terrific things that we do slightly differently from conventional medicine when it comes to care for mothers in the postpartum period specifically. So in Canada, there are 3 pillars of midwifery care. What that means is that we practice usually in continuity of care teams, which means that the mothers get to see the same midwives again and again through their pregnancies. They have those same midwives attend them in birth, and then they have those same midwives come back to see them at home after their baby is born, and then in follow-up care in clinics, usually around 2, 4, and 6 weeks postpartum. We can lengthen that according to local regulations up to as late as I think 8 to 12 weeks, and I know they're looking at expanding that as well. In terms of the home care that we provide in the in that time period after the baby is born, we do at least 3 visits in the first week. And so I think that makes a huge difference to promote sort of positive emotions through a really emotionally tumultuous time after a baby's been born for a mom. It also allows moms to be able to debrief with us, and we can work through and answer any questions about what might have happened during the labor or the birth or the early postpartum time period. We can also work a lot around breastfeeding and infant care. We are trained to do proper debriefing from birth trauma that might have happened. So if somebody has gone into it planning a home birth and they end up over the course of labor requiring a cesarean birth, oftentimes there can be a lot of feelings that come up in those first few days after birth, and being able to address those feelings, answer questions, reflect on why certain things went particular ways and how that might impact future pregnancies or future postpartum periods with subsequent babies can be really, really helpful just to cement in women's minds exactly, why things went a particular way, likelihood of that recurring, different things that we might be able to do next time to prevent different things from happening sometimes. But largely it's all about kind of reassuring and boosting up that mom during that period to ensure that she knows that she has done and will continue to do everything possible to make the transition good and to help support a healthy and happy family. The other piece, I think, of that is that as a midwife, I've been able to work with women, obviously one-on-one, to help make sure that they have all the resources around them that can help to ease that transition. So whether that's family support or friends locally or getting involved in different groups that might be available, parenting groups or infant care groups, breastfeeding groups, all of those sorts of things can make a big difference in those early days. In terms of advice for those first few days with a newborn, I think first off, just telling women that they're not alone is really important. Being able to reflect on your own experiences and the experiences of others is really important. It feels very isolating and it feels very overwhelming to have a newborn on your hands as you're trying to heal from birth and deal with all of the emotional transitions that accompany parenthood and what often feels like the loss of personhood in the first few days, for sure. Those feelings that you're talking about are extremely common. And I think I generally kind of sit back and think, okay, how can we mother the mother in this situation? How can we make her feel good so that she can do the work that she needs to do? Sometimes it's really, really practical things like, are there ways that we can modify her space so that she's not having to get up unnecessarily in the night? Does she have access to everything she needs at her bedside table as she heads into what we call the night shift, where you're up with a sometimes cranky baby, or at least a baby who's nursing, and you're trying to find your way in how to breastfeed or how to feed your baby and take care of your baby, and you're also extremely sleep deprived and recovering from probably the biggest thing that's ever happened to your body. So creating really practical ways to make that easy is helpful. I think within a more global environment, as we've moved away from our families and not having that embedded support, makes it harder to get the kind of support that I think most moms would love at the beginning of parenthood. And so recognizing that in lieu of having, other mothers like grandmothers and mother-in-laws and aunties and other people that would come and dote on you, if those people are not available, that is going to fall onto the shoulders of local friends and community. It's also going to fall really heavily on the partner. And so preparing for those things in advance is really important, as well as making sure that potentially that partner has a greater amount of time off work to be able to support that transition, recognizing that they too will be going through transitions at the same time. So I think really talking to moms who are feeling overwhelmed and alone, letting them know that those are really, really common things that happen, and that finding a community or ensuring that their spouse is armed to take up that role of providing a lot of support practically but also emotionally is really important. And I'd say last thing on this is try to get outside every day, even if it's really cold or really hot, because sometimes just seeing the sun helps to regulate you and make you feel a little bit better.